Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our webinar today. I want to introduce our speaker. Our speaker today is Jenny Rhead. She's the Marketing Director of Designs of Distinction, and she's going to be talking to us today about KBIS, a little report on KBIS and how it affects us cabinet makers. Before we get into the trends you saw at KBIS, Jenny, can you give us a quick sense of what you saw and how it matters to us
Yeah,
as cabinet shop owners?
yeah. As a component manufacturer, we exhibit at KBIS every year. The last few years, we've been doing a collaborated booth with other companies that kind of complement the components that we do, so that it's more of like a one-stop shop type of feel when you come by our booth. Um, I've noticed that this helps people envision how these things work together and how to add it within their designs. That's something that was really difficult to communicate prior to adding the collaborators, where people thought or they didn't quite understand where they could add the type of components that we offer. With collaborating with other companies, we're able to communicate that message more clearly. So at KBIS, there were a number of things that we saw, and I'm going to highlight a few of them today. One moment while I get my slides started here. Let's see here. There's going to be three trends that we're highlighting today. The first one is texture. The second one is metal accents, and the third one is radius forms. These are the things that I saw at KBIS over and over again. And we wanted to bring this webinar to CMA because if you're running a shop, taking 3 or 4 days off of work to walk a trade show isn't always realistic or affordable. So that's what we're doing right now. We're bringing KBIS to you and we're filtering it down to what actually makes you money and why it's important. KBIS, what happens at KBIS directly affects what your customers are going to start asking for. And the ones who are aware of this are able to incorporate it into their product manufacturing and offering ahead of time so they can do the upsells uh, during the design process. So I will go ahead and get started here. Let's see here. Let's go back.
So,
Sorry
um,
about that.
yeah, Jenny, I think what we'd like to know is sort of when you're walking a show like KBIS, what are you looking for or what should we be looking for? And so, yeah, let's get into the trends, the products,
Yeah.
the things that you saw and presented.
Mhm. So we look for obviously the latest and greatest, the newest, the shiniest, whatever trend it may be, because as a component manufacturer, we need to be even more ahead than designers and cabinet makers because we're bringing it to them. So we like to go to KBIS. We also attend other international trend-driven trade shows so that we have a heads up on this. We're always looking for what the next color and feel will be. So in the last couple of years, we've seen the feel of a kitchen or bathroom or just the home in general go from very stark white and open space with minimal decoration to more earthy and biophilic designs where there's intentional decoration to make it feel personal. And, this slide explains just that. They're not, homeowners are, for the most part, are not going out there and installing the trendiest product just because it's trendy. They're installing it because it makes them feel, it adds character, it reflects who they are. So, more on that, like I said, homeowners want spaces that are reflecting their personality, their lifestyle, and their taste. So, at KBIS, we're able to get a heads up on these things and start to do some product development by way of, what we can offer and build so that small cabinet shops don't have to, so that they can outsource that. Some of the latest, trendiest type of products are not necessarily easy to make in a small shop. Maybe the shops aren't set up for it. They don't have the equipment. It takes a lot of time. It's difficult to repeat for whatever reason. Um, these trends aren't always doable on the shop side. And so we, as a component manufacturer, go in to get that heads up to understand what we can do to make your lives easier. And from the shop perspective, you're keeping up with a trend because that's what's going to add value to your projects and increase your margins. So trends, like I said, they provide the tools to create the expression. So here we have 4 very different kitchens, and they look completely different, but the trends are present in all of them. So on the next slide, I show a few other kitchens where texture, mixed materials, metal accents, and softened forms, they're appearing across all these styles, and they help create these spaces with character. So in this slide, we can see where these things are marrying. Very different colors, very different feels, very different design styles, and kitchen layouts in general. But what we can see is these trends kind of speaking across these different design styles. So we have metal accents both in this sort of eclectic kitchen and the what I would frame as a more masculine or minimal kitchen here. And then on this side, we have what I would call a historic kitchen, where it reminds you of, a traditional Victorian, your grandma's house, perhaps, but it has that updated feel and updated materials and colors that reflect more of today's trends. So we have softened forms across all 3 of these different styles, metal accents, and metal accents in this kitchen over here to the right would be the intentional selection of faucets and hardware on the cabinets, knobs, pulls, things like that. In this kitchen here, you can see it's an aluminum frame cabinet door, and over here we have different straps and things like that added to the range and whatnot to create different focal points and add character. So let's see here, what do I next? So
Great.
yeah,
That's,
go ahead,
yeah,
Amy.
that's really great. I was just going to say, as a shop owner, I've been hearing a lot about texture lately. Sometimes I struggle with what that actually means for cabinetry. And
Sure.
so I'm curious about that. And also, for smaller shops, how realistic is it for us to incorporate some of some of these items that kind of bring these textures together,
Yeah.
like reeded or fluted details or the metal, those sort of things.
Absolutely. We will dive into that momentarily. The first thing I want to highlight, just because this is the overarching theme of the presentation that we've put together, is that selling to, and I put luxury in brackets because um, it's luxury to me means $100,000 or more type of kitchen. When in reality, we can sell a luxury kitchen that is, at the bones $20,000 with maybe $5,000 or $10,000 worth of decorative details, rather than the entire $100,000 kitchen. So this article by Woodworking Network came out this week, and it aligns very well with what we're talking about today. And that is that selling to these quote unquote luxury clients is about perceived value. It's about what the homeowner feels is going to be a comfortable space for them. And it feels custom, it feels personalized, but a lot of it is really out of the box solutions that you're just putting together into one. So, like I said, there's this article here. We will be sending out the presentation. These articles are linked. So you'll be able to click into this and see what the article is all about. And then on that note, there's YouTube channels dedicated to how to frame your messaging to be able to accomplish this. And one of them is this luxury academy, YouTube. And in that, he says, this is a direct quote, that you want clients to trust you, but in order to do that, you have to do something that feels really counteractive. You Most of the time, and it's true that trust is built through enthusiasm, reassurance, and saying yes. And as he says, that approach might work in everyday sales, but it's going to fail with high net worth individuals or with people who have that perceived luxury. The fastest way to earn trust with these types of clients is to make a move that looks the least profitable in the moment. So that would be the upsells. It feels not so comfortable to go into a client who said, I need to do this on somewhat of a budget, or, I'm only interested in doing this because my kitchen is outdated. I need a new kitchen. They're not necessarily interested in the trends. They're interested in the functionality. But like I said, you can take your out of the box solutions, piece it together, and have the kitchen feel personalized, custom. And in the moment, it might not feel profitable, but when you look back, your margins are more protected because you've added these different details that increases the value and ultimately what the price the customer pays. Before we get to the trends, the other thing I want to highlight is what KBIS is actually telling us. At a high level, it starts at in the United States and really North America, our trends are defined at shows like KBIS. Prior to that, they're at shows like SciCam in Italy and other types of material shows. But we're just, that's where in North America we kind of start with our trends is KBIS. Those trends go to the designers. The designers make the builders assume or catch on to those trends. And then the builders are reinforcing it to the homeowners, and the homeowners are creating the demand. So we're not chasing trends, but we're using them to anticipate demand and increase our project value. And now we want to get into those trends. So to your point, Amy, kind of what is texture in cabinets and how we can incorporate that. And one of the things that we saw at KBIS is just texture all over the place. There's really not a lot of flat, monotone surfaces. If it is a flat color, like back here, we see this black leather, there's texture to it. So in this slide, we're showing there's this peel and stick crocodile leather veneer. It's a recycled leather veneer. It's put out by Ecodomo. You can, source it from there, or you can source it from us here at Designs of Distinction to purchase it by the linear foot. But this webinar is not about that. So texture works because it's often more memorable than color. It makes spaces feel custom and high end without incorporating an entirely new build or anything like that. So you can add these textures that I'm showing here into your cabinets and different designs relatively simply. So I am showing here this kind of more or less the same island, but adding that texture to it. So we have a square island up here. This island gets the job done. It's nice. And could be sold, I don't know, let's just throw out a number for 5,000 or whatever. But now we take it, now we're adding a radius ends and we're adding a brass token. We can add a couple grand on to that for the sell price, and our margins aren't necessarily going to take the hit. And then we can go even a step further and add reeded and fluted detailing around the island, perhaps in your cabinetry in the back, and things like that. So this is just a very simple example of where you can apply texture. And there's so many other examples that after this webinar, I'm going to include just one more slide to show you specifically in a cabinet door how easy it is to add this texture by either taking out the center panel and replacing it with something like a resin panel or decorative grill, or putting something over the center panel, like a mullion that's either lasered or CNC'd out of wood or metal or whatever. Um, so yeah, that's one of the biggest trends we saw, and it's one of the biggest drivers in our product development right now.
Or the radius corners or the fluted, the
Uh,
reeded and
both,
fluted both?
yeah, both of them, and the third trend I'm going to touch on is the radius corners and softened edges. But for now, our product development, like I was saying, is definitely driven by how can we add the texture without redoing everything,
Yeah.
without making it something that cabinet makers and builders have to reinvent the wheel to
Yeah.
incorporate.
So, speaking of that, I am often, as a cabinet maker, intimidated when my customer brings me a design that involves metal. Most of the time, I will just contract that out to someone else. So, let's talk a little bit about metal and how I can incorporate that into a project
Yeah.
and keep it in-house and make it profitable for me,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
change the texture of the
sure.
job.
Definitely. So yeah, that's my trend two here that we saw at KBIS. Really, this isn't just this year. These metal accents have been growing and growing. So I've been around the KBIS industry and this type of community that we're in for almost 10 years now. And I remember back in, I think it was 2019 or so, was when Designs of Distinction as a manufacturer added metal. Up until then, we were strictly focused on wood. And so we had to, make that move because that's where the trends are going. And what we're seeing is the metal is moving beyond the hardware. It's moving beyond the poles and the knobs. It's going into the design in different ways, being incorporated in different ways. And the way cabinet makers can incorporate this is relatively simple. Is as far as the trends and the ways of incorporating them that I'm talking about, it's relatively simple. Designers are loving metal these days because it's adding contrast and warmth. It has that texture, a different texture as well. It adds a custom feel, and it's elevating simple cabinetry. So when you have just a flat panel door like this video over here, but you're adding a trim detail to it, now it feels luxury, high end, custom, and you can add different finishes to even to increase that feel even more. So these are something that are somewhat of an easy upsell, and it increases that perceived value. And this luxury is increasingly found in minute, small, almost imperceivable details. Um, the metal trim that is in these two this video and these images over here is sold by in a 72 or a 96-inch length. You can trim it, very easy to trim on site, and you adhere it with a double-sided ultra high bond tape, and you set it and forget it. That tape will not come off. I have another video that I can include after this webinar of how hard it is to separate the trim from the door or the surface that you're adhering it to once it's adhered, once it's somewhat cured. It's temperature and heat resist, or temperature, moisture resistant, all of that. And then the other way that I was kind of hitting on previously is this texture here. In incorporating things like a decorative grill, again, is pretty much as simple as taking out the center panel of a cabinet, and you route it just like you route the door just like you would for glass, and put the metal in it instead. Um, so over here, I have a few different ways that we're seeing it being incorporated. One of the easiest and least expensive ways is on these two images here on the left and right sides. Over on the left side, we have a gallery rail. We call it the gallery rail. It's also referred to as a shelf rail, a shoe rail, anything like that. And, once you have your shelves in place, adding this small rail detail has a focal point. It does serve a purpose, but more than anything, it adds that focal point. It feels custom, increases that perceived value. On this side, the metal trim that we were discussing on the last slide, plus this design, we call this piece here on the top of the garbage can cabinet, the designer drip edge. It was an award-winning component that we came out with a few years ago. And this component is literally as easy as measuring your cabinet, ordering the product, uh, removing the protective layer on the pre-applied tape and cleaning the cabinet and sticking it on, and that's it. And now you can feel even more confident in your warranty that you provide on your cabinetry, because the top end of the garbage can cabinet is not going to get damaged by cleaning chemicals, food, stuffs and things like that. And that also is true of the other aluminum components. You can put them on the edges or in high traffic areas to protect the corners and surfaces. Up here we have just a brass leg. So instead of doing a wood leg or a full toe pick, you can replace it with a brass leg. And then another way to do this is with custom mullions and lasered panels layered with decorative grill or other types of materials.
So I love those drip edges. I've been selling those a lot in my cabinets, not just for trash doors, but under sinks, especially
Yep.
apron front sinks, and in bathrooms.
Yes.
Our
I've
bathroom
actually,
doors take a lot of wear and tear, and this has
mhm.
been a saver for that.
Yeah, I've seen them put on also a panel ready, like installed panel ready dishwasher, for
Oh,
example.
great idea. Great idea.
Where the wood is being exposed to a lot of
Hmm.
humidity,
Hmm.
and this helps protect it. I've seen it used also in closets. Um, it's more of a decorative detail in closets. Let's say you have something that's a hamper, a pull-out
Hmm.
hamper, or a drop zone, for example. Maybe you have a pull-out shoe storage, things like that. This type of
Hmm.
product is perfect to protect
Hmm.
that and really at the end of the day increase your customer satisfaction.
I love the trim too, the trim details, that reminds me a lot of something that was popular several years ago for us, where we were putting that same trim in, but in wood.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's very similar. It looks like the application would be identical, but the look is very high end and
Mm-hmm.
finished.
Yeah. And
I
what's
also was
awesome.
thinking in my mind,
Yeah.
in a place like Texas where we've got a lot of humidity, sometimes
Yeah.
expansion and contraction can cause that joint to crack. And
Yeah.
that's the perfect place to hide that cracked
It
paint
is.
joint.
I've seen it hide scuffs and cracks from, for example, like installing hinges and
Hmm.
things like that. I've seen it used for that. And another um, benefit of the trim product on this side here is that this is anodized aluminum, and we just on our side we carry a whole slew of anodized aluminum components, and they will all match each other. And because they're aluminum, they won't rust, they won't chip, they won't peel, they won't tarnish. um,
Nice.
these components right here are made mostly out of brass, and we on a stock basis only sell lacquered brass, so it resists that tarnishing, the patina. You can get it on a custom basis and unlacquered brass to patina. But I hear all the time that from designers, from builders, and things like that, where the customer has requested unlacquered brass, not understanding how quickly it can patina, and once it's patina, it's not going back. Um, and I've also heard that unlacquered brass in a family home, for example, you're going to get fingerprints all over it. Your pet is going to get whatever pet mess they make all over it. And
Yeah.
so those are things to think about when you're adding metal to a design. And a quick note I want to just mention is that when you're incorporating this into your process, it's a really easy upsell during that quote process.
Mm.
It's also something that if a homeowner wants a remodel and their cabinet, the backbone is good, they're quality, cabinets that were installed in the first place. Um, this allows you to do more than just paint them a different color.
Yeah.
Um, it
Right.
allows you to do more than also like cutting out the center panel or removing it from a cabinet that's already installed. You can do this to frame it and add that custom feel.
Mhm.
So you can also propose questions to your clients, homeowners, and things like that. That would just as easy as, would you like to upgrade this area? I have a simple solution for
Mhm.
problems that usually occur.
Yeah. So, let's talk curves and
Mhm.
softened edges. I definitely, as a cabinet maker, I mean, the designer side in me loves the curves. The cabinet maker in me is intimidated. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with them. So, let's talk about
Absolutely.
those. I mean, they're obviously here to stay. But
Yeah, and
as a cabinet maker, it feels like a lot of work. So let's talk it out.
yeah, I agree with you that it's here to stay. When timbre, the reeded and fluted paneling came back, and it was reminiscent of the '60s roll top desks and appliance garages and things like that. And at first, a lot of people thought this isn't going to last. This is not the type of um, you know trend that's gonna stick because it's not something that we can incorporate easily, that we've seen in a while, whatever the case may be. But the industry responded with people like us who manufacture that as a component to incorporate within your cabinet so that you can build the box and we will do these types of components for you. So for an example, uh, it's a, I'd like to say it's a new era of curved cabinetry. We have actually a blog post dedicated to this about what it is, where the trend came from, and where it's going, and how we can solve problems for cabinet makers who, like you, are intimidated by building it, repeating it, and making it a valuable process, so that you're not instead of you know, building it and assuming the cost of the labor and the materials and maybe, an error or two, you can buy the component via outsourcing. And now it's a lot less expensive. You don't have to set up your shop to do it. You don't have to retrain employees. You don't have to buy any more tooling, um, things like that. So back to the trend though, the reason being it gives a softer visual appearance. It's less boxy, it's more furniture-like, it's warmer, it's more inviting, but it also serves a practical reason. I I'm the type of person that, I've been in a room 1,000 times where there's an island, right? But I will still run into the corner of that island and it will hurt really bad. When you have softened edges, that doesn't hurt as bad. So that's kind of just from a practicality standpoint, a reason why I think this trend is here to stay. So, like I said, it's furniture inspired. So we have an entertainment center or a console table. Um, Here we have a whole unit built around the curbs, both on the doors and here on the bookcase. And here on the right, this is from Plain and Fancy's booth at KBIS, where they built a radius form here, and then these doors opened, and this is a top-down view. So they did this in-house, where they built this the substrate back here, radius, and then they applied a flexible tamper panel or flexible beaded panel to the front to give it that texture. So, on that note, you can add value by adding one simple feature. You can take your simple bookcase, and instead of doing a square top, you can add an arch top. You could take that same bookcase and incorporate the texture by adding rattan in the doors. So, and the other difference here that makes this bookcase feel more personalized and custom, these two, than this one, is the addition of feet. So the addition of feet makes it feel more furniture-like, and like it's a piece that belongs in the space, that wasn't just thrown in there. It feels like it was incorporated intentionally. Um, so on that note, it's not, with this idea of this new era of curved cabinetry, it's not just changes in the design process. It's changes in the availability of the ways to execute it efficiently. So, as a cabinet shop like yourself, outsourcing the radius components that are difficult to make, or any other type of component that's difficult to deal with in-house, like decorative grills and rattan. You have to buy rolls, you have to buy sheets. Outsourcing it through a company like Designs of Distinction, we offer those things cut to size, cut to length. So you're not dealing with, not only are you not dealing with waste and what to do with the rest of that material, but you have it ready to go to install right off the bat. And that again can protect your margins.
Yeah. So, just kind of thinking about like, as a cabinet maker, ways I can incorporate this. But do you have any advice for smaller shops that have not done these things before, how they can start incorporating this into their jobs, like how they could perhaps introduce these trends to their customers? I mean, often customers will bring these things to us, and then we're scratching our head trying to figure out how to make it happen.
Yeah,
Well, you've told us like some of the suppliers that we can go to
yeah.
help with that. But if a customer just doesn't know,
Hmm.
give us some ideas on how we
Yeah.
can
So
present these to our customers.
yeah. So a lot of times a homeowner will bring you a variety of images that they've seen on Pinterest, on Instagram, wherever the case may be. It's We're seeing a lot more, homeowners bringing the inspiration to their builders and their cabinet shops through things like retail environments and, um, different types of boutiques and things like that. And that's because cabinets are, in the last several years, we're realizing cabinetry is so useful for other things like closets and different things like that. So when you're thinking about incorporating something like the trends I've been discussing, really start with this simple box of the cabinet and its practicality, where it's going to be placed and what purpose it's going to serve. Get that nailed first, and then the homeowner, like I said, they're bringing you all these different images. They might not even see the difference in the images that they're bringing to you. They like just the feel of it. They feel like it's their personality. They feel like it's custom. And what you have to do as a cabinet maker, a manufacturer, designer, is figure out what elements of those different images and pictures are they are they bringing to you that you can marry in your process, that you can marry within your design and build process. And everybody is familiar with what their shop is good at in particular. So maybe your shop is good at doing the radius edges, but your shop is not good at, you know, um, sourcing the different textures. And um, as a designer builder, that's where shows like KBIS, and then upcoming here, IWF is less trend driven, but it is very material driven. That's where these shows come in handy, because you'll have knowledge and different things that you've seen and picked up along the way in the back of your mind that you can tap into. Um, and yeah, like I was saying before, homeowners, the consumer, the customer is 9 times out of 10, they can point out, yes, I want open shelving. I want this reeded texture, but they see it here, and you know, because you're designing the space, that they don't have the dimensions to incorporate an island that's freestanding or, can be, uh, you know, radius on the corners or anything like that. You have to incorporate the things that they want within the constraints you're given. And being aware of the trends and how to incorporate it and where to get them, and what to do during the quoting process and things like that, that will help you get from where you are now to where you want to be, making more money on the same type of work that you're doing today.
Yeah, I would say that's key. That's really important. Knowing how expensive these things are and knowing how difficult they're going to be to incorporate into your shop before you bid the job is really important. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, some of these trends have been here a while and seem as popular as ever. The metal, the curves, the flutes, and I think it's pretty dangerous as a shop owner to just try to ignore it. They're definitely here
Yeah,
to stay, and we've got to do what we can to incorporate them into our designs. Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
So with on that note, reframing the coding process in your thinking around the design and build, you can start thinking about, okay, well, what can I add on? What is a pass through where I'm ordering this component, I bring it in, I incorporate it into the design. You incorporate it in, you're finishing it with the same kitchen. You bring it in, and pass it through essentially on to the consumer. So this is an example where we have our white base kitchen, plain cabinet, plain island, different things like that. Now we can incorporate texture, a metal accent, and decorative detail to create that higher perceived value and protect and increase your margins. So a few examples here would be to add texture, like those reeded panels on your upper cabinetry or even your lower cabinets or both. And here on the backside of the island here, you can add a metal accent on the upper cabinets here, for example, with the drip edges that we discussed earlier, or framing the cabinet, bars and straps, and then adding a simple decorative detail, like here the backsplash, um, using different types of tile, or even rethinking your stone choices to add to the decoration of it. And I pointed out this edge here because this is a very square boxy edge, and you can incorporate either a radius shape or a rounded molding or things like that to give that just a simple thing to give that higher end feel. And along with that, just before we continue, I want to marry that with how your shop could, quote unquote, win. And the bottom line is to use trends that we've discussed today to strategically win better jobs, win clients and homeowners who are ready to personalize their space, that want to, take their box cabinetry and just add some personalization to it. You can use trends strategically to add value without overcomplicating what you're doing, both in the shop and on the job site. And again, it's protecting margins. So the best shops are aware of design, plus their unique craftsmanship and profitability. Of course, you have to have a profitable shop to keep, doing your work. And that's what gives small shops a competitive advantage.
great. Yeah, so 100% in agreement uh, with you. I'm sort of wondering if you've got any advice for, maybe some shop owners out there who have not incorporated these design trends, where to start? Like, what's their
Yeah.
first step?
Well, good thing you asked, because I have a slide that has a very 1, 2, 3 things to do tomorrow. And that would be add one premium upgrade option to every quote. There's there's two ways you can do this. You can just add it in the quote, and that's what the customer asked for, that's what they want to see, or you can add it as a line item so that you can present the base light boxy kitchen or whatever it may be, and add small line items for them to add different types of upgrades. And this also, when you add it as a line item, it allows the customer to really pick and choose. It allows the customer to say, you know what, I want this today versus I'm going to wait and add that on maybe next year, or next time I do some type of upgrade. Um, so that's one thing you can do. The second thing you can do is start to watch design trends before customers ask, and you can do that in a few different ways. I'm monitoring Instagram and following the popular designers and cabinet manufacturers, the boutique cabinet shops that are doing it well. And one of my favorite ways to think about this is you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and there really is not a whole lot new that you have to do when a new trend comes in. The process is the same of designing and outsourcing certain components that your shop isn't good at. It's just what is changing is the taste, the color, the texture, and the different types of things that you can incorporate to align yourselves with those design trends. And then finally, focusing on the details that increase perceived value. So there are an example I think of right now is the aluminum bars that we saw earlier. That's a detail that increased perceived value. And another way, a step you can go further is to quote that exact same product. It's the 1/4-inch aluminum bar in, right? So brass is actually a kind of secret that I'm telling you right now is that brass is actually cheaper on a material basis than aluminum, but the importing and unfortunately the tariffs now are making it so it in America and in North America anyway, it's about the same cost as aluminum. But with that said, that reframing of, this is a real quote unquote brass, authentic brass bar is just one way that you can take it that step further to increase the perceived value. And like you were saying earlier, with how you can incorporate this in small to mid-sized shops, and that's recognizing your shop is not good at, and that you don't need to build everything. You should focus on what you're good at, and you should be, figuring out how to deliver the things that your shop can't do efficiently and in a cost-effective manner. So you can do that by having different vendor partnerships, having specialty suppliers, outsourcing your components, going to trade shows like KBIS, like IDF, and other regional trade shows like Closets Con, Wood Pro Expo, different shows like that, to again kind of just be a sponge so that you have information in your back of your head for when you want to, tap into that. When you have a job that calls for it, when you have a client that is presenting you with an opportunity based on a challenge that you've never thought about before.
Yeah, so interesting. It didn't work out for me schedule wise to go to KBIS, but I am going to IWF in August, and I definitely will be looking for Designs of Distinctions booth and for other booths that are showing these trends. Just to try to make some more partnerships for these components.
Yeah.
Thanks
And,
so
and
much, Jenny. This has all been so interesting. Do you have anything else you want to share with us today? It's been a lot of great information.
yeah, well, of course, I'd like to say thank you, Amy, and for hosting this webinar and
Oh,
for
thank you.
your time. Thank you to the CMA for giving us the platform to have this discussion. And I guess the last thing is, if you're going to remember anything from today, it's avoid the one-off headaches, avoid the headaches that are going to be coming down the pipeline because of whatever trend is popular by um, thinking about how you can outsource more efficiently. And when you're thinking about outsourcing, it's important to vet the different suppliers and vendors that you're finding to make sure that at the end of the day, you're not, shooting yourself in the foot by buying a product that is marketed as a high quality product, but actually isn't. So you want to make sure you're looking into the specifications and the details like you know how to do already when it comes to adding trendy products that feel like you might need to do it right now. Take a step back and think about it like you already do with other things.
Yeah, and I don't know about other suppliers, but I have reached out to Designs of Distinction in the past, and they will send you a sample of something if you're wanting to look at the quality or feel it in your hand before you offer it to a client. So
Yeah,
I'm sure that's the
yeah,
case for
we
other suppliers too. You just need to reach out and ask.
absolutely, yeah. Sample kits as a vendor and supplier manufacturer in the industry, sample kits have like I don't even know how to describe it. It's exploded. We never had a sample program up until a few years ago. People didn't need it because there were wood and you knew what a wood product looked like. And now we have all these different types of materials and textures. You want to look at it, you want to feel it, you want to touch it, you want to show the homeowner how it's going to look in their kitchen. And so sampling overall is a great way to get to know, what this material is going to be like to work with, and lock it into your homeowner's head that this is a good upgrade. This is a valuable upgrade in the end.
Well, thanks, Jenny, so much for your time. It's been very helpful. I appreciate you sharing with us today, and I appreciate all of you that joined us for the webinar. Be on the lookout for webinars, podcasts, other information that the CMA has to share coming up. And hopefully, if you are at IWF in Atlanta in August, you'll stop by the CMA booth and say hi to us. All right.
Thank
Well,
you. Thank you so
thank you
much.
so much.
If there's any questions from anybody who's watching this now or the recording, you can always reach out to me, Amy, and Amanda from the CMA. And when I do send this out or when I have it ready for the CMA to post online or what have you, I will include a few more slides and some contact information.
Great. Thanks so much, Jenny. Have a great
Thank you,
day, everyone.
Amy.